Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for choosing our panel. We are fully booked, actually, and it doesn't make things easier for me, at least. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, so the triumphs and travails of making a short stylized cartoon in Unreal Engine 5 based on Lil Ruby. I guess this is the longest name of presentation, this Unreal Fest, so already flattered, right? So we will talk to you about our process, our struggle, what we had to face during 8 months of producing this short stylized film, right? So we are from a studio Platige Image from Warsaw. It's the biggest post-production company in Poland. It's about 300 artists, divided into 4 different divisions. There is events, broadcast, entertainment, animation, and commercial. We are from commercial.
Yep.
And every single department is doing its own things, but there is one common ground that we are actually using Unreal pretty much, more and more, day after day. And we actually even have Unreal Engine-oriented showreel, which we're going to show you right now. Okay. And this is our Lil Ruby core team. Okay, so we have Bartek Kik and Tomek Karelus, our director and art director, super geeks about cartoon and anime. We did a lot of stylized projects before, so really good to have guys like that. Hania Drevek, producer. We would die without her day one, so thank you, Hania, for being with us. Aurelian Zimon, executive producer. So he was taking care about good relationships with client, with agencies, so we could focus more on technicalities and artists. And we actually got this job for us, right? So, Kuba Bogacki, Unreal Engine lead. Thank you for your service, man.
You're fired.
No. And yeah, without you, it would all like collapse immediately. So thank you.
And my head, Marek Gajowski.
Yeah, I was actually CG supervisor on this one, but I'm also head of the commercial department. So that was a pretty wild ride for me to do both of these things at the same time. But I could give you extended version maybe today at our evening party, if you are interested. But yeah, despite knowing that it's gonna be really wild ride, I decided to be close to the process because it was a pretty innovative process for us, and I knew that future projects would benefit greatly from that. So I better be close to it as a head of CG and CG supervisor, right? And here it is. We will show you a trailer of Lil Ruby now.
Give me the gem, I'm a ruby. Red. Give me the gem, I'm a ruby. Red. Y'all thought a rose could outdo me? I make them shine like I'm jewelry. Look up at the screen, it's a movie.
Oh, and what a beautiful red hoodie you have there.
All the better to show how powerful black girls are.
Over time, we start to grow. From the fire comes the gold. Over river, through the woods. Know our name wherever we go.
Okay. Beginning of the project. So it all started with a pretty popular podcast series in United States. It's called Now Upon a Time, and they are turning those old traditional fairy tales into more modern stories, right? Adjusted for modern audience. And well, one of them was Lil Ruby, right? So we started from this one. And when client reached us, they actually already had a teaser done by someone else, but still it was some kind of solid starting point for us, right? So let's see it. So as you can see, pretty different beast, right?
Yeah, it was good concept, like proof of concept for us to see things that can work or have to be done totally differently.
Yeah. So why Unreal, right? So the very first reason was because this teaser was done in Unreal 4.2.7 probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the beginning of the production, we still thought that we will probably possibly recycle some assets from it, right? We even got the Unreal scenes to take a look at, but so yeah, it was supposed to be some kind of solid starting point, but we actually threw it away like entirely and started
we
from
had to.
scratch, right? So yet another reason, challenging timing. So with using Unreal Engine, there is this promise of being super fast, super real time, to being able to do some very fast look diff, right? So we kind of followed this promise. Another reason, very challenging budget. Yeah, our regular workflow, Maya, Arnold, it was too slow, it was too expensive. A lot of artists has to be involved in the process, so it was not really for this project. We decided instead to go into a really small generalist-oriented team. Yeah, with budget comes rendering, right? So with Unreal, again, there is this promise of fast rendering. So there is no need for expensive render farm. We all know electricity is expensive these days, right? And no compositing. So yeah, our goal since the very beginning was to achieve as final pictures from Unreal as possible without the need of compositing, and we kind of succeeded with that. So, and yeah,
it was a great opportunity for us to learn something new. We come from Maya and Arnold-oriented productions, so it was our advantage here was our very open-minded art director and agency gave us absolute freedom to create the look. There were some like guidelines for us, but it was up to us what we end up with. So it was really excited, uncharted territory, like so many things, CVARs and Lumen doing Lumen things.
Exactly.
And
so promises, but we were soon to find out that the truth was slightly different, okay? So let's move on. Planning, determining main problems, and needs. So the very first thing is to be aware of the scale of the project, right? So we are talking about 131 shots exactly, 7.5 minutes of pure animation. We prefer to say 9 minutes with end titles. 8 months of work, 4 characters, 6 environments, 50 props, and all of it done by pretty small team, right? So the one thing that we knew since the beginning that we're gonna need is the external animation team that is specialized in this kind of animation, right? This is cartoon animation in twos, so we really needed specialists to do that. So we hired this team. We had internal assets team that was providing us all this stuff, right? Those characters and environments. And of course, we had internal R&D and pipeline teams. They had to provide us tools and solutions to actually make it all happen, right? And internal generalist team who was basically gluing it all together. All right, so a lot of technical things to be prepared, right, before we even start. So what we actually needed is shot grid integration. The shot grid is our main framework for every single software that we are using in Platige. So Unreal was not really a part of it. I mean, the setup was kind of ready, but it had to be developed further for Lil Ruby. I mean, these stuff are pretty basic for regular pipeline, right? So communications. Simply, it's all about communication with shot grid. So those softwares speak to each other and see what is happening with each other, right?
Our other department used Unreal as a rendering tool. So they did use just shots and shots being rendered in Unreal. And we didn't want to do it this way. We loved master sequence. So for our R&D, it was something different because they were already building this for this shot-oriented pipeline. So our render manager, they did a great job with dividing this for shots and for assets. Assets had this special panel for turntables. It was really lifesaver. Not keeping track on this, everything being published to ShotGrid, it was very important for whole production.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it all looks nice and colorful on ShotGrid, right? So what else do we have? Assets transfer. So assets were actually created using our standard Maya and Arnold and Substance-oriented pipeline. So all the models and textures were exported into Unreal. And here is what happened in Unreal.
First steps of the project, obviously, master shader. So it's just to keep seeing things in colors. It evolved because of we didn't know where we're going to end up with stylization and what's going to deliver it. So it was alive through all the process. It's not the biggest, it's not one of the smallest, but yeah, it's standard features of tweaking colors usually and roughnesses. Also, we had few variations of our characters, like with the outfits. We went for blueprint-oriented thing with the construction script. It was much easier to just keep it and export it all from Maya, like the one thing with the variations inside with hiding the via shader. Instead of like keeping track of 3 skeletals per each character and update with animations, like it would be nuts. So we went with the blueprint.
Cool. Well, here are some examples of turntables from the props. So, the thing with stylized cartoon animation is that you can't really download any of it from pre-existing libraries, right? Every single thing needs to be designed from scratch. So every single prop, including pen or leaves, it has to be, it has its own concept art and its own model and everything. So
it has to fit this movie's art style, right?
Yeah.
So
here are our characters.
We were designing the way of doing hairs. We weren't sure what we were going to end up with. So we were sure we were not going to go with the groom as it was too realistic. We need more stylization. So obvious choice was go with the geometry and some strands, as you can tell with the Howl guy. And it went well for him, but the other characters need something more. So we went with the haircuts. And yeah, it was come and go. It was good choice. We did use not enough for the Ruby, but Unreal is such amazing tool. We just add a separate asset with the haircuts to make them more dense and attach them to the head bone, and it fixed the problem.
Rig transfers. So this is yet another pretty technical process that had to be done. So our TD and R&D team, they had to make a lot of under the hood pipeline adjustments, some custom rig modifications to be able to transfer all this stuff to Unreal, right? So stylized characters, they have really complicated rigs sometimes with a lot of deformations, a lot of weird custom stuff. So all of it had to work somehow in Unreal. So a lot of testing, a lot of problem solving, and actually till the very end of the production, we still had some little issues with that. Previs, animation, and cameras workflow. So yeah, I know how it looks like, but it's actually pretty simple. So our internal assets team was supposed to deliver simplified characters and rigs for previs, and basic props and environments for previs, because our external animation team was not only responsible for animation, but it was also doing previs for us. So they had to start as early as possible with whatever we have ready. So yeah, we delivered that. And later, through the process, yeah, we switched into making high resolution characters and rigs with face controls and stuff, and some higher resolution version of props and environments for better interaction. So this external animation team could use it and simply finish its work. And then our job of our internal generalist team was to somehow capture their work, right? They were not really working in our pipeline. We had to figure out the way to capture their work and publish it within our pipeline. So pipeline team had to figure out the tool for the semi-automatic scene publishing and animation caching from external animation team. So that was a pretty big thing for us. It actually did its job and pretty much saved us. Yeah. So internal generalist team, data wrangling, importing animations and publishing in Maya pipeline, and publishing cameras in pipeline, because within those animation scenes we also had cameras that had to be translated into Unreal. And on the Unreal side of things, of course, importing animations and importing cameras. And again, R&D team had to deliver us tools to make it work, right? So we had tools for exporting and importing cameras. We had tools for exporting FBXs files from published pipeline animations, and our published pipeline animation is based on Alembic, so those FBX files had to somehow exist, right, for Unreal. So it all happened for Lil Ruby.
Our version control, one more thing. Our version control is obviously Perforce. It's great. We did overwrite all animations. We didn't version like 1, 2, 3. It's something new for the team, so we still struggle with some rolling back. But at least updating animation for whole thing, like when shots were coming. Maybe this is more than to tell you, like almost all our props were separate rigs, and so when we built up the scene, it was like we get like 20 animations, and they were like taking care of where some stuff should lie around. So animating this was just selecting everything, right click, re-import animation. It was great.
Okay, let's move on. Environment building. So pretty early in the process, we decided that we will divide our environments into 2 categories, right? So the first one was fully assembled in Maya and Substance, so our regular pipeline, and then exported as one piece into Unreal and then shading in Unreal. And another category is building a library of elements and assets and then exporting it to Unreal and set dressing it in Unreal like from some kind of puzzles, right? So those 2 approaches work for different scenarios, different scenes, and different environments.
And here are examples why they work this way. Sometimes you build for the frame. At the bottom GIF, you have example when you can use cards that were delivered from matte paints from the layers, and it's much easier to build the frame this way. And on the other ones, sometimes you exist with the ready set, that's assets move, characters, cameras, but the set itself stays the same way, like the metro or the kitchen place.
Okay. Big topic, stylization. We will actually get back to this one twice during this same presentation. So, but those are our initial plans and assumptions, right? So it all starts from gathering references, of course, right? So this is our art director's job, to gather as many as possible. So we got references for simply every single element and environment, character references, of course. And then we switched to creating our own custom concepts, right? So as I mentioned before, every single prop and element needs to be designed from scratch. So we had a lot of concepts, right? Matte paints. So we knew since the beginning that we're gonna have a lot of matte paints, stylized, nice looking matte paints that will push our stylization in the
and define it
direction.
as well with the brush strokes and all the
exactly, because here we have painterly textures. We knew that if we want to achieve this stylized 2D cartoony look, we need to go into some painterly nice looking textures, and actually we could gather those patterns and textures directly from matte paints. So that was cool. All right, stylization part 2.
Our main reference was Arcane, Spider-Man. It's the best thing you can get. Obviously, we weren't able to build it sort of like frame by frame with such a small team, so we had to find our way of doing this. It's funny thing, we didn't know, like it wasn't given to us. Like we knew we don't want cell shaded style. We don't want any outlines, so it was really hard to find something on YouTube like how to stylize thing. So there was one promise and one holy grail we were aiming for, and thought that it's gonna filter everything for us, and it's
Kuwahara filtering.
yeah.
So this is a filter that makes things look like a painting, basically. So yep, that was our initial idea for depth of field, for example, right? We
Yeah.
didn't really want to have real depth of field. We decided that maybe we'll try this approach. Yeah. That was our assumption, of course.
Yes, yes.
It evolved. Okay, very important thing, animation in twos, right? So every second frame has a keyframe. So pretty obvious thing, but we really need to have a great animation, and our external team delivered. So this whole thing is a 3D that looks like 2D, but we knew that we need some actual 2D painted, animated, hand animated elements on top. You know, all those dynamic lines that come from anime world and cartoon world. So we had all this additional layer on top of most of the shots, actually. And motion graphics. So After Effects motion graphics elements integrated into a final picture. So it all gave us stylization. Here we go. Expectations versus reality. Okay.
I can't see our Spanish friends, but you know, shiny, shiny. Do you remember that? Shiny, shiny.
All right. So yeah, we faced a lot of struggle, a lot of gray hair grown on our head. Like, look at him, right? Yeah, rigging issues. We had a lot of weird deformation issues here and there. Like the differences in skinning between Maya and Unreal, they were present literally through the whole production, right? For multiple reasons. So we really spent a lot of time trying to fix those elements and actually understand where it all comes from, right?
Yeah,
It was crazy.
At some point, if you're doing some stylized project or like heavy bones oriented, you can encounter this thing with the chunking. Our amazing R&D team came up with the solution. It's some sievers from MetaHumans. It's just 4 lines of code and fixes the problem. So look for this.
And yeah, problems and surprises till the end of the project. Yeah, unfortunately. Animation issues. It's like a direct continuation of rigging issues, right? But we had a lot of problems with animation, and there are some funny examples actually. But yeah, we noticed really early on that this transitioning of animation between Maya and Unreal, this is very sensitive to how you construct scene in Maya, right? If you really want to have a good transition of animation, this Maya scene needs to be cleaned up. Everything has to be baked. You should not really leave any live constraints anywhere. It should be all grouped, nice and tidy. And our initial idea was that we will show a progress of previs and in animation, everything through Unreal, right? So whatever will come from this external animation team, we will simply pass it to Unreal and show to the client this nice colorful pictures, right? Nothing of that happened. Like after 5 months,
Yeah,
we had like first edit of Unreal from start to finish after 5 months. And it all comes to the way of work of this external animation team, right? They were not polishing Maya scenes until the end of production. So that was this big issue in how you assume stuff, right?
You either kill the flow of the process or you have those things.
So we simply decided, after discovering this, we simply decided that we will show previous animation, previous edit from Maya, right? So that was it. Yeah, a lot of bugs, cleanups, necessity, baking keyframes, problems with animation team, no polishing until final version. Exactly. And some single unresolved bugs until the end of the project. And here's this.
Okay. So Unreal is real-time engine, right? And it reads between the keys. So it was very, even in project settings, when we set like the fixed frame rate, and in sequencer, when we had all the frame rate correctly assembled, we still got some bugs. Like it depends how you bring animation. If it's linear, if it's stepped, it's supposed to be stepped. We are not quite sure if it's because we're exporting from Maya 2017. Maybe FBX had some problem with weights of the handle weights. But if we switch for the linear, we had bad issues with the camera. Maybe it was something with the root offset. At some point, we pressed things in sequencer and it popped it and it worked. And it's like, let's go, don't touch it. Yeah.
Okay, environment changes. This is actually a pretty cool one. Those matte paints that I mentioned before, we actually decided to use them even more in the production, and we actually used them directly within a shot. So whenever we received Photoshop matte paints, we decided to project it onto geometry in Nuke, render it from Nuke, and use it as a background in Unreal. So here are some examples of it.
Yeah, it gave us another level of difficulty because they're so painterly, they're like pixel perfect, done with the brushes in Photoshop. You can do everything, and then we have to overlay it with the 3D character, right, with the lighting, and it was tricky, but it came up well, like soon. We came up with the solution that helped us blend it together.
Okay.
Also, it's against the game dev way of doing things, but we love to keep things apart, like multiple IDs. So like with this framing, with the finger thing, there always something that you don't know what's going to happen within the picture. So you can just dial the texture and move things around within the shader. If you have multiple objects being movable around, so we could move the lamp, for example, and have it make more sense than a straight line behind the howl. And also, like always, you can divide the asset, right? And in this case, we had to move the ceiling because of the funny camera angle, and we couldn't clip it with the camera because of the lighting would flood in from the outside. So just go with like how you do it. Don't think game dev way.
So pretty early on, we decided that post-processing going to be a huge part of our stylization. And yeah, they are really awesome, but at the very beginning, they were really problematic for us. Right?
Yeah, it wasn't given. Like the style, the post-process we end up with, like develop, it was pretty simple at the end. But usually you find things about cell shading or this Kuvahara that we were hoping it's gonna like blend all those things together. But each iteration, as you can tell in the big GIF, like each iteration gave us something that we are almost happy with. Like, but we did push it forward, and we end up with something totally different than we were like.
Because it was like ongoing process, right?
Till the end,
constantly evolving. We didn't really have a prescription how to do it at the very beginning. We didn't really know how it's going to look like. Pretty late, scary late stages of the production. We still weren't sure how it's going to look like. So yeah, it didn't really help with anything. And this Kuvahara, we decided that we're not going to use this extreme in-your-face version of Kuvahara filtering. Instead, it evolved into something really delicate.
Right? Yes. It's and because it was developed and it created some sort of ambient lighting for us, not so much like blurriness. So we end up using this, but with a very, very slight amount. Like Kuvahara can be dialed in the post-process as a post-process with the decimals. Our post-process layer, because there was Kuvahara layer and like our post-process layer. So it was like integer, right? So 1 or 0.
Rendering issues. So a lot of boiling, GI.
Yeah. Right? So if you encounter this, yesterday was great talk about optimization. So there are some hints there how to deal with moving GI. For us was slowing down lumen update. This fixed the boiling GI and trees. Also, we encountered at the beginning a problem with virtual shadows. I'm not sure if was it because of subsurface, like we had to turn it off. We quickly went for the ray traced shadows for obvious lights for the quality reasons and for soft shadows, but it's very quickly killed the render times, and we lost track of the real-time rendering.
Yeah, there was no longer real-time rendering here. And we didn't really have GPU render farms, so we still had to render it all on our local machines. Yeah. Fixing in online, guys. So as I mentioned before, we had all these deformation animation issues till the very end of production. So at the end, we decided to fix most of them simply by painting them out, right, on Flame using our regular post-production pipeline. So all those weird behaviors with eyebrows, eyelashes, some geometry intersections, geometry intersections. So all this stuff, it was cheaper and faster to simply paint out at the end. I'm pretty sure there are still some present in many shots, but I can see them
It's
anymore.
not worth fighting for in Unreal. Like it can be done really, really quicker.
Fixing in grade. So our client and agency, very important thing for them was proper skin tones for characters and to maintain those proper skin tones through the whole production. It was really difficult, especially when you have multiple lighting conditions. So at the end of the day, we simply fixed it all in grading. You could export cryptomats from Unreal, so it was a pretty easy and no-brainer fix.
Thank you, Unreal, for cryptomats.
Exactly. All right, but it was actually not that bad, okay? Getting back on track, Unreal shows its advantages, right? So yeah, those post processes, right? They were initially really problematic, but as soon as we figured them out and we kind of knew how it all gonna look like, they become really our best friends.
Yes, right? Yes. It's amazing how much you can pull off from Unreal, like not only just regular iterative lighting with like instant picture, but if you can see like the big change from the dark to light, this is the scene how it looked lit, and when turning post-process on, it was absolutely different. It makes a whole level of difficulties to get this balance of light and shadows. So this is just how the post-process worked, right? Yeah. So on the characters below, you see it's like day and night, right? We lose almost like entirely lose shadow quality, like the contrast, but we get this flatness.
Yeah, and it was very exciting because this is very unique tool. Like I can't really recall any other software that.
Yeah, imagine doing this Maya, Arnold, right?
Right. It's like a purely compositing thing, but it just happens in your viewport, right? Okay.
Okay, so as an Howell and other pictures, as you can tell, this is like super different when you light. It's still 3-point lighting or something. You try to find the rims, the fidelity with lights, but when you turn on the post process, it all comes to the balance of those values. Like they're pretty simple. It's really, you're gonna see it's brain dead simple, but it gave really hard time to find the correct values for the lights and the post process, the look of the post process. This is the graph for the post process itself. The things that are available and as a texture sample was it's called based color and stored in gbuffer and beauty rendering. So this is like the whole core. It was this is how we achieved the path that wasn't obviously available in Unreal. It's because you can get detailed lighting, beauty, and flat color. But as you can see in detailed lighting, when you start using subsurfaces and like hair cards and some translucencies, it goes to the picture. The thing what we needed was the clean lighting path, like the mask. We were using this as a mask. So it's we achieved this through subtracting diffuse color from beauty. It's really, really so simple. There are obviously some other values that could be tweaked, like the penumbra of the shadow, terminator, how we want to soften, how much contrast we want to give to the lighting pass, and how much contrast we want to give to the shadow pass. I mean, zone, right? So you can see I'm playing with the values here. This is the same thing. One thing is just what happens to the mask and what happens to the beauty, right? So it's like come and go when you put the lights on and find the best values for stylization. Then it turns out like you need to add some lights. It breaks the stylization, so you need to go back and forth, but it's worth, right? But the worst part is when it happens through all sequence, right? And you find some like perfect values and or like bring some light or like something, you know, it works very well for the picture, and you need to go through like 70 shots, right? And but it's worth at the end, like it's worth.
So basically, you subtract diffuse from beauty.
Yep.
You achieve lighting pass and use it as a mask to blend diffuse back on top of beauty.
Yes.
So
That's him.
yeah, and that was our post process basically, right? Okay, interactive lighting. So yes, after solving all those animation and technical issues, all what was left was pure artistry, right? So yeah,
that's the moment where when you can shine, you know, like this, you know, your home. The only very important thing is you always try to draw it with the light, right? So you think about rims. The rims change with the animation, right? So you need to think to keep the lights moving on tools as well. So it's sometimes you move like 5 lights with the character. We'll give you tip later how we can achieve it easier, but yeah, it's very important. There's not such thing as quick lighting. As you can see, like scenes obviously built for the shots. We didn't have many scenes that characters were traveling through. They were much harder because, you know, you had to keep track on what rims is doing or light channels and stuff. Yeah, but definitely remember on lights has to move on tools as well.
Okay, fast scenes updating and our famous kitchen accessories case, right? So there was this moment at the very end. It was actually the very last day before our delivery of final edit, and actually last 2 hours of availability of our rigging guy. He was flying on vacation. So there is this scene with Howell running through the kitchen here, right? Big fat character running through the environment, and yep, something was missing, right? This environment was extremely stiff. There was nothing happening, and we
knew we had to find something like
right.
there's obviously this overlay of 2D thing, but it still wasn't like this impact, this camera shake, like it wasn't there. So it was really quick thing. Like the idea came up like around 10 o'clock or something. Like Pavel, we need like rig for the kitchen appliances, right? So it went to Pavel. The different thing went to Nastya that had to clean up the ambient occlusion from the wall and detach the stuff. So it's really the time is directly from ShotGrid. So at 12:38, Marek was like, we didn't have any animator available. So our head supervisor, animator, and compositing guy, like head, did animation really quickly. So at 6, like at 4, we have like everything ready and delivered.
So like imagine doing that in standard Arnold pipeline, right? It would be the next day after full night of rendering. Okay, compositing. Well, we finally decided to transfer some shots to compositing. Actually, more than we planned previously. So we decided to do compositing for all the shots that required motion graphics elements. Okay, so when we had layer of motion graphics and layer of Unreal, thanks to existing cryptomats, we could simply glue it all together in Nuke. It was just easier, faster, and cleaner way of doing that, right? And there were some other cases where we used compositing. There is a scene where camera passes through the newspaper. It's really hard to achieve in Unreal, so we decided to go in Nuke. Some shadow compositing, yeah, some individual cases where it was simply better to use compositing. So overall, we are talking about like 10 or 12 shots. So not that bad. Most
Okay.
useful.
Some tips from me. This is, you might like it. Can I see how many people are here lighters or rendering?
Everyone.
All right, nice. Nice to see you. So, light channels. Epic, please give us more. They are very, very helpful. So use it for as much like lifesavers for projects like this where you need to keep lights for per character. Is 3, it's not enough, but it's okay. So if you need to attach, if you need to animate lights on tools, sometimes it's just easier to attach them to the bone because animation is also already on tools. So you just need to keep like every second frame to keep it in the shot. So animation is dragging lights and you save so much time for it. So we were using master sequence as a kind of explorer. This is great thing. Like very many projects are like shot oriented. This one was we want to keep one edit so we could render overnight everything. And this is great when you just you can double click the master sequence, get in, you have then sequences from that shot. It's easier it's easier than opening levels and jumping through. You just use the arrows. So our R&D team had to rebuild this little bit because the way I think it was because the way we're assembling shots. So we have subsequences for levels, for characters and stuff. So with some tweaks, we end up with little upgraded team, but you can use just Lemon Unreal part as well. And this is one extra that came up to me. I call it scavenging for light. If you use point light and you make it really, really big, like the range, and you look for this perfect way of shining, like the rim, right? It's easier to do with the point light than to rotate the spotlight. If you get the correct position, there's this amazing shortcut in Unreal, like I think Shift right click, Shift left click. So you copy transform values for X, Y, Z and rotations. So this way you delete the point light, you put the spotlight in the place. So you can narrow the penumbra of the light so you don't lit all around. Shadows are better if you don't use ray traced. So you have more information for spotlight. And it's this good one. And yeah, there is this shortcut, Control-Shift-W. I don't know how many know about it, but it makes interface scale a little bit. It's not so much important for 4K monitors. It's still very, very good. The value 8/10 makes everything still very readable, but you get more this workings area, right? If you work with the master sequence, it's very often you go outside the outside the timeline. So there is this amazing option in sequencer: keep playhead in playback range while scrubbing. It stops. It won't unload your level. Load it like sometimes you have some things that weren't saved, like you. So this way you don't lose them. And my biggest thing that I found out lately: get the widescreen. So on the left you have like all the toolbars you can get, and you end up with a small picture. With the widescreen, you have all your tools. You don't have to go through the tabs. You see everything in the picture. In the recent project, there was something on the small picture. You think you see everything, like correct composition, like big, medium, small. Then you open it up on the full screen and you say like, whoa, this scene is empty. I can fill it up with stuff, right? And like time was ticking all the way. So you like it make your life much easier. Get the widescreen, really.
Or get free widescreens.
Yeah.
Okay, conclusions for the future and current situation at Platige in terms of using Unreal. So our first conclusion is that R&D team is basically essential when you are doing big technical projects like that. Like without a dedicated R&D team who is building tools for you, it's impossible to do it. like our experience. It's impossible to do it, right? But to keep the knowledge about the process growing and alive, it all has to be documented, right? So we have this internal knowledge base called Confluence, and the R&D team is gathering all the articles or the solutions, tutorials in there, so it's gonna be there forever for future generations. And the R&D team started this tradition of periodic presentations for entire company about some cool features in Unreal, and it evolved into this Platige for Platige presentations. Every couple of weeks we have something like that, and someone is sharing experience and some solutions and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool, and it's all, of course, recorded and sent to Platige Confluence, right? And the R&D team is still developing tools and solutions for future projects and current projects. So it didn't end with Lil Ruby. It was just the beginning, basically. And Unreal in Platige. So yeah, we are official Unreal Engine service partners, so there are some obvious benefits coming from that. We have entertainment department who is working entirely in Unreal, like for quite some time now, actually. So Unreal is their main thing, right? Yeah, more and more Unreal Engine projects in every department. So we are coming from commercial, and we did couple Unreal projects per year, basically, right? And those projects are getting bigger and bigger and even more complex, so they require more and more R&D support, right? And within our department, I decided to create this Unreal Engine unit. So we have Unreal Engine specialists within our department, and we are recruiting more of them, right? We are really interested in recruiting Unreal Engine generalists under the leadership of Kuba. So yeah, that's quite how it looks like right now. Pipeline plans. So in general, we really want to make Unreal Engine part of our pipeline, right? To integrate it deeper, like every other software. So so there is no wall between Unreal Engine and users, because it was always a tough decision. Damn, what are we going to do? Are we going to do this project in Unreal or in standard pipeline, right? So we really want to tear down this wall, so there is no such thing. So eventually, Unreal Engine will be same software like Maya or Houdini, perfectly integrated with all the features, right? Expect the unexpected. Yes. So whenever client asks you to to create something in Unreal because it's faster and easier and cheaper, well, okay, hold your horses. You really need to carefully bid it, try to predict whatever is coming your way. Because it's not really exactly like that. Of course, it simplifies many things, but it's not that super great, right? So Unreal Engine is not silver bullet, so it's not your ultimate solutions for all your problems. You still need to have support, this whole team, right? And you really need to spend some time fixing things, right? So it's not that simple. And actually, in our case, this time saved on real-time saved on rendering is put into production and problem solving. Like this problem solving was really a huge part of our production, right? Time. Yeah. All right. Here are some warm words from our director and art director, how they really love the process, love the Unreal, and they are hungry for more, and how much they enjoyed it, right? And we really enjoyed showing it all with you and sharing our experience with you. So thank you guys for listening to us for 50 minutes.